Hey there, friends! Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
As number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter. Hey there, friends! Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
As number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive
It is Monday, the 26th of August 2024. Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Daily Report right here on your authoritative channel TV47. I am George Maringa. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. Tonight we want to track matters service delivery to Kenyans, and who best to have that conversation with than my guest tonight, who is the Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura, the government spokesman. He has been associated with official communication from the government side, and tonight we want to find out whether those promises that were made by the Kenya Kwanza government are on track. We've also seen what has happened in the recent past. Start engaging us on X, formerly Twitter. You can find us at TV47 News. I am at George Maringa _. Please use the hashtag Daily Report, hashtag Power and Politics. 22047 is our SMS line. We will be engaging you there as well. Start with your name, where you're watching us from, followed by your question, comment, or feedback regarding the program tonight. Our WhatsApp number will also be on your screens shortly, where you can send in your questions, as well as giving an opportunity for you to call in live and forward your question or front your question to the government spokesperson. A fun fact, did you know that he is the 5th spokesperson to occupy that office? His predecessor was Colonel Cyrus Oguna, retired, having occupied that position in 2019. It was first occupied by Alfred Mutua, who is now the CS, between the year 2002 and then later on Muthoi Kariuki, appointed in 2012 to 2013. The office was later disbanded. It was resuscitated in 2016 by the occupation of Eric Kirai, the former police boss, and then now Cyrus Oguna in 2019. Now we have Dr. Isaac Mwaura, the government spokesman. What questions do you want him to answer? Please go ahead and engage us. We look forward to having that conversation with him. We'll be here in just a short while. But before then, here is a sneak peek of the top stories tonight. Tonight, a day of confusion and dismay as an off and on again teachers' strike takes effect.
That on Saturday they would see the money on their slips. That money has not been remitted. So it means they were taking us for a ride. And that is the reason why Gov't Kenya, we will lead all the teachers, including those ones who have chickened out.
Your next NYS cohort could be bigger, and get this cohort could just graduate with some level of weapons training.
With the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior, further the initiative to make sure that the paramilitary training that these young men and women go through will include a basic course in firearms.
And in an update to the recent news of a grisly accident in the Rift, we show you the real pain and suffering behind the road accidents statistics. A happy and loving bride enjoying her best day on earth, which turns out to be her last. Thank you for choosing TV47 to inform you. I am George Maringa. Catherine Simaloy is on sign language interpretation tonight. The ongoing teachers' strike led by the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers (KUPPET) has taken a fierce turn across the country, despite internal divisions within the teachers' unions. Between NAT and KUPPET branches in various regions are standing firm, determined to make their voices heard. CS for Education Ezekiel Ogamba has, however, asked the union to come to the negotiating table, revealing that the government is willing to resolve the ongoing stalemate. An auditor with the country roundup.
In counties like Kiambu, the go-slow began at the crack of dawn on Monday. KUPPET members in this region joined their colleagues nationwide, protesting against irregularities plaguing junior secondary schools, JSS. The grievances include the employment of unqualified teachers and the underpayment of those currently handling JSS classes.
The strike will continue. So wrong is the promotion of one that the teachers is not done.
Tuko ground, tunaona kabisa hakuna masomo yanaendelea kule JSS.
In Kakamega County, the scene was one of relentless action. Teachers marched through streets and schools, ensuring that no one defied the union's call to strike. Schools were shut down as the teachers made it clear that their demands must be met.
The strike is on. Walimu wote wa Kakamega County, tusikupate shuleni.
Our teachers are dying in hospitals because they cannot be treated well.
This same fervor spread across Nakuru, Eldoret, Meru, Laikipia, Isiolo, Machakos, Busia, Turkana and Baringo counties. Branch council officials issued a stern warning that any members who defy the strike directive would be labeled traitors to the cause. However, the atmosphere was different in Mombasa County, where police disrupted the planned protest.
I told you clearly what to do and you are still in the situation.
Teachers who had gathered at Uhuru Gardens on Moi Avenue were denied the opportunity to protest despite their pleas. But the teachers remain undeterred. They have vowed to escalate their efforts starting tomorrow.
Here tomorrow we are coming. I'm going to work tooth and nail to ensure we get the permit. So today, no school, no chalk. Don't show yourself near any teaching institution.
The reasons behind this widespread strike are as deep-rooted as they are pressing. Teachers are striking to demand better treatment and address the alarming issues within the education sector, particularly in junior secondary schools. They are fighting for qualified staffing, fair compensation, implementation of the pending collective bargaining agreement by promoting teachers, revise their medical covers, among other grievances. Ann Odida, TV47.
Thank you, Odida, for that. This year's education is Julius Ogamba, not Ezekiel. Now, away from that, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, CUPET, today held a nationwide teachers' strike, paralyzing plans for the reopening of schools. Among those affected by the strike are JSS teachers who fear job losses as a result of the industrial action, not to mention the parents of students in secondary school who are dismayed because majority of them had paid school fees and were prepared to return their children to class. Anastasia Mukabi reports.
These are pictures of several primary schools in the country as teachers from Giant Union NAT went back to the classrooms and learning commenced. However, some teachers were in a dilemma, especially those handling junior secondary, torn between joining a strike that is, among other things, pushing for their rights or giving the government time to effect its promises to cater to their needs, all the while fearing the loss of their jobs.
According to us as intern teachers, we support the strike, but now since we are interns, we are not on permanent. We are not registered to any union, and now we are fearing to go out there to jiunge na CUPET. Last time you saw that intern teachers, they striked, giving their grievances that they are supposed to be confirmed to permanent and pensionable terms, but when they were crying for their rights, most of them, their contracts were terminated.
The GSS interns contract will expire on 31st August this year, and the government has not issued any directive, at least not yet.
The government is not communicating. Even the TSC, hawatuambii what to do, hatujui tunafanya nini, we are just here.
On the other hand, CUPET members proceeded with their strike today to voice their concerns and grievances, a situation that caused distress among secondary school parents who were prepared to take their children back to school.
Tumia pesa yote ya kazi, tukabaki bila kitu, pesa zote tumepeleka shule. Alafu kujiandaa hiyo yote tunaambiwa ati watoto waendi shule leo.
Kuna wenye wanafanya hata mitihani ya kitaifa na tunaomba ya kwamba waweze kurudi na kuanzia ili watoto wetu waweze kunufaika katika mhula huu wa mwisho wa tatu.
Now parents and students fear that if the strike continues, there will be changes in the school calendar. Anastasia Mkabi, TV47.
Thank you, Anastasia. President William Ruto presided over the pass-out parade of the National Youth Service NYS trainees in Gilgil, Nakuru County on Monday. And in his speech, the president directed the National Youth Service NYS to increase the number of recruits to 20,000 in their next intake, as Chichi Josephine now tells us.
Following a directive by President William Ruto made on Monday, when he presided over the NYS pass-out parade in Gilgil, Nakuru County, the National Youth Service will now increase the number of recruits from 15,000 to 20,000 in their next intake.
Nataka nitangaze hapa kwamba tutaongeza vijana ambao watakuja katika National Youth Service. Nilikuwa nimesema pale 2023 ya kwamba tutaongeza 5,000 kila mwaka mpaka tufikishe vijana 20,000.
The president announced plans to have the National Youth Service officers undergo basic training on use of firearms, a move he said will ensure that the officers are ready to respond and protect the country when a need arises.
The minister responsible for National Youth Service, who is here with me, should, in consultation with the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior, further the initiative to make sure that the paramilitary training that these young men and women go through will include a basic course in firearms to make sure that they stand ready to protect the country when the need arises.
At the same time, Ruto announced his approval of recruiting additional cadets and private officers to support NYS in doing their duties across the country.
To improve on the numbers, as I have directed that the next recruitment will have 20,000 recruits, I have today approved the recruitment of 200 additional cadet officers into the NYS and 500 private officers to support in the exemplary work that is going on at the National Youth Service.
According to the president, additional initiatives have been undertaken to improve the terms of service within the organization and to embrace digital transformations that enhance transparency and efficiency in NYS operations. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Thank you, Chichi. Members of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund NG-CDF Committee have asked Kenyans to jealously guard the kitty to ensure sustained grassroots development in the wake of recent debate on its legality. About 78.2% of the allocated NG-CDF kitty is normally directed towards education, while 5.7% is allocated towards security. And as Mike Kagwango reports, the NG-CDF debate has recently sparked national conversation, with a section of MPs proposing its abolition. Take a look.
The National Government Constituency Development Fund NG-CDF has been the subject of much national discussion lately regarding its possible elimination, despite some legislators' efforts to use the funds effectively. With the questions on how the MPs utilize the biggest allocation at the constituency level increasing amongst Kenyans, the NG-CDF has been a lifeline for many struggling families, in addition to upgrading critical learning infrastructure across the country. In July this year, nominated Senator Tabitha Mutinda argued that abolishing the NG-CDF will help streamline government functions and address the country's pressing debt issues. Her proposal was aimed at reducing government expenditure as an austerity measure before she subsequently withdrew it. Typically, 78.2% of the NG-CDF funds go to education, while 5.7% is used for security. Infotrack survey shows Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro as the top performing youthful MP, having revamped 112 primary schools to enhance the learning environment.
Hapa Kiharu
tunaona maendeleo, imeendelea kabisa kabisa, hakuna kitu yetu inapotea hata shilingi moja.
Even in this now time that we are doing Kabro, all the labor is coming from Kiharu again. And if you come during the holidays when we are doing it, there are people who are doing and there are also people who are teaching others.
Natoa kazi kwa vijana wao, kuna wazee hapa wanapata kitu hapa, wanasaidika na hii mradi ya serikali.
With the help of the NG-CDF fund, a total of 45 schools, including primary and secondary schools in Kiharu constituency, have been fit with Kabro blocks, at least to protect students from dust and mud.
In the previous term, it was muddy and we were not able to come to school smoothly, but at least now we are going to come to school smoothly.
You know, when we talk about we are tidying and doing Kabro, that's not the only thing we are doing. We are doing a lot of libraries. We are doing a lot of laboratories, because it goes hand in hand. But also, as I said, make sure there are relevant books in those schools.
Now, this Kabros and landscaping project has created a room for benchmarking exercise, with more than 40 members of parliament from across the country visiting Kiharu constituency, with an aim of initiating the same within their respective constituencies.
We have felt the experience of utilization of resources, especially when you use labor-based. You will find out that with little resources you are able to do much.
We learnt a lot, and we also know that we can share with each other. So
President William Ruto recently questioned members of parliament against misuse of CDF funds, telling them to account for the 57 billion shillings previously allocated to help the common mwananchi. The lawmakers currently on recess are facing scrutiny for their handling of funds, amid reports suggesting that many are redirecting them to unintended purposes. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike. Once again, negotiations on revenue sharing between the national government, county governments, the Treasury and the Commission on Revenue Allocation CRA have come to a standstill during the 24th session of the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council, IBEC, chaired by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on Monday. No consensus was reached as to how the revenue will be shared for the 2024-2025 financial year, with Treasury demanding to scrap a whopping 20 billion shillings following withdrawal of Finance Bill 2024. Mike Kagwango reports.
Stalemate has arisen between the National Treasury and the Council of Governors over the share of revenue to be allocated to the devolved units. In light of the government's decision to lower the share by 20 billion shillings, the county chiefs have unanimously asked the national government to disburse the 400 billion shillings that was earlier specified in the ill-fated Finance Bill of 2024.
We are losing 20.117 billion Kenya shillings from 400 billion to 380 billion. We haven't agreed on that matter. Our position is we need to go to mediation.
During the last financial year of 2023-2024, the National Treasury transferred 354.5 billion shillings to counties by June 30th of 2024, an equivalent of 92% of the total equitable share due to counties.
The National Treasury transferred 354.5 billion shillings to counties by June 30, 2024.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the outstanding amount of 30.83 billion shillings for June was released in July. This was attributed to a shortfall in revenue collections and the limited fiscal space. Article 203, Section 2 of the Constitution gives the minimum threshold on the amount of equitable revenue to be allocated to counties as 15% of latest audited revenues. The shortfall, however, has forced governors to borrow more from banks, increasing pending bills that stands at 516 billion shillings as of June 30th.
We are not able to pay our suppliers. Other counties, of course, like Kakamega, we've just borrowed money from banks for 2 months to pay salaries. So That cash crunch is a reality.
Council of Governors, Finance, Planning and Economic Affairs Chair Fernandez Barasa says the National Treasury shall distribute equitable shares in accordance with the Public Finance Management Act PFM requirement, as the council had decided by a 50% vote on account.
We have a legal framework that will facilitate disbursement of funds to counties up to 50%.
The National Treasury will disburse amounts for July and August in early September. The disagreement between the national government and the 47 devolved units leave the 47 county governors in dilemma, with a section of counties yet to migrate from manual to digital form of revenue collection. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike. More than 100 Kenyans are staring at the loss of millions of shillings to an individual who promised them a handsome interest by investing in a Shylock scheme and land sale racket. Pascaline Peter, popularly known through her Facebook account as Pase Matreva, a self-proclaimed investor come business person, wooed unsuspecting individuals to join what she termed as lucrative ventures, promising a 30% interest as profit on their principal investment amount. People who fell for what is now feared to be an online swindle by allegedly committing millions of shillings as investment are now in panic, as Pase Matreva has gone incognito for the past 3 days. Moiga William has traced some of the victims and filed the following report.
My name is Pascaline Peter. I'm the CEO.
From a Shylock to a real estate broker, to a humanitarian, to a HIV and AIDS awareness ambassador, all these are the titles and personas gathered from the well-publicized and curated posts made on her Facebook account while using the name Pase Matreva. Pascaline Peter is the main character at the center of what is turning to be an alleged online scam that could see hundreds of Kenyans losing their money to the tune of millions. This group of people gathered in Nairobi's Central Business District to brainstorm on their next move on how to recover their money, funds they had purportedly invested through Pase Matreva, who has since gone incognito.
I know of a case of someone who miscarried on the same day. The case blew up.
Personally, I'm a student, so this was money I was supposed to pay my next semester with.
One would ask, how did the unsuspecting Kenyans fall prey to what is seemingly turning to be a swindle? According to these individuals, Pascaline's modus operandi was based on friendship, banking on friends to invite other friends to the scheme, promising a monthly interest rate of 30% on what is reportedly termed as an investment on land sale and Shylock business ventures.
I didn't meet her in person to discuss this, but the friend told me how this system works. A friend introduces a friend. She was sharing with us on the strides she had made in life or the strides she had made on a personal level as a result of this particular scheme.
Well, Pascaline is said to have won the trust of unsuspecting victims by also posting her lavish lifestyle on social media, displaying a taste of fine things, further displaying the progress of the construction of a palatial home in Manla area, Machakos County, apparently proceeds of her lucrative business. The first sign of trouble in paradise came from Pascaline's WhatsApp status, a post that hinted to use black magic to handle the lending business, which she admitted it was not faring well.
And she got to purchase two things. A seat worth 399,000, that's 400,000, and a bed for 500,000. So already that has given me the direction of what kind of a client I'm dealing with. Like, we do the high-end stuff.
Sleuths have kick-started investigations into the matter, with a section of Kenyans claiming to have invested huge amounts of money, some even to the tune of 20 million shillings, in hope that they will reap big.
Currently, the DCI has taken up the matter and is doing the investigations.
Red flags be damned, but the results, millions of shillings have been lost. Victims are now grappling with the reality, living a day at a time, but hopeful soon or later their monies will be recovered. Moiga William, TV47, Nairobi.
Unfortunate. Thank you, Mwege William, for that report. And just to remind you, tonight we have the government spokesman, the Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura, who will be in studio for our conversation in just a short while. Keep your feedback coming. A family in Mumias East that lost their kin through yesterday's accident at Musembe area, together with 4 others from Elgeyo Marakwet County, is asking for help to enable them to give the deceased a befitting send-off. The 5 died following a road accident involving a trailer, tractor and Toyota Probox at Musembe area along the Eldoret-Webuye Highway.
In a village a few kilometers from Shianda Shopping Center in Mumias East constituency, this family is mourning. Their daughter, Brenda Masahwe, was among the 5 who died yesterday in an accident along Eldoret-Webuye Road. The 5 were among the 11 people who came to Mumias East from Elgeyo Marakwet for a traditional introduction and dowry ceremony to Brenda's family. The deceased mother, Brenda Masahwe, narrates the ordeal.
Tukawaambia tu kwa heri watembee vizuri. Kwenda tunasikia Sunday karibu saa 3 watu wamepata ajali. Mimi nikafikiria tu wamepata ajali, pengine wameumiako tu wako hospitali.
How will they know that a day they planned and anticipated to end in joyous celebration will turn to mourning? Javan Masahwe says that her 29-year-old daughter, Brenda Masahwe, returned home on Friday for the preparations to welcome her in-laws on Saturday. Javan in disbelief that the warm meal they shared will be their last.
Msichana wakasema huko kwetu Marakwet, msichana apake nyuma. Vile tumekuja hivi, tumekuja kuchukua msichana. Sasa kari yenye ilikuwa imepepa msichana wangu, Probox, ikawa nyuma.
Brenda's passing, they say, is a big blow to the family.
Brenda niambia usiende kwa poma ya mtu atunaenda kuomba kitu. Badala ya kuomba kitu nipigie tu simu nikutumie ununue. Hakika nimepoteza. Brenda hata ndio amenichengea hii nyumba.
Na nilete yako tuve, hasa ni I have missed to get that tuve. Labda alikuwa ananiletea shati, longi na kadhalika.
Currently, the funeral plans are underway as the 5 will be interred on Thursday in Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Pumps waingirisi katika ile njia kwa sababu ajali zimekuwa nyingi sana katika ile barabara.
Nataka tu serikali isaidie hao watu wenye wamepata msiba wote.
Wale vile walikuwa wamekuja hapa wamechukua msichana wangu, sasa ni wao watasika huko. Hata gari yenyewe sina ya kufika huko Marakwet huko.
Vile tumepoteza binti yetu, na tunaomba hiyo familia ya Elgeyo Marakwet watufanyie tu vile tulikuwa tumeakizana, na hapo tutakubaliana nao.
Violet Auma, TV47.
32 minutes past the hour. We thank you for staying with the Daily Report right here on TV47. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we have more on the other side, including that conversation with the government spokesman, the Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura. He'll be here in studio as we track service delivery to Kenyans. Just stay with us.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, Grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Welcome to the Daily Report. Thank you so much for staying with us. I am George Maringa, still right here. And as I had informed you, we are tonight tracking service delivery to Kenyans with none other than the government spokesman, the Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura. He's already here in studio Welcome, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, Judge.
And karibu to your debut of the Daily Report.
Thank you.
Asante sana. And I'll begin by, we've seen what the President has announced today about the NYS, the increase. Of course, last year he did say that the number will be increased, but today there is a new development on the firearms training. What exactly may have informed that idea?
Yeah, the President, first and foremost, I'm happy to be here. It's been quite some time since I was on TV47 in general.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that we are on this show. Yes. The President is looking at how to ensure that we increase, our own self-defense. And we have a lot of, young people who go through NYS. In case they are called to service, then they would be able to provide that kind of security. The NYS graduates, they demonstrate, how they can use a weapon using the shovel. I mean, it's quite interesting. It should be something better. And so I think that's what they need to look at, because they can also be used for national security. But NYS has come a long way. It's good to say. For example, when I was in the National Assembly, I started inclusion of youth with disabilities in NYS, and I'm happy 10 years on that this program is still going on. So hundreds of youth with disabilities have also been included. And also NYS has become somewhere where you can rely on people who are disciplined. So you could see now even we have programs of countries like Israel, in Australia, and such other jurisdictions that require ex-NYS people to be recruited to go and work there. So it's a very good training ground for future bureaucrats and administrators and people who are known to be having proper work ethics. Yes.
The issue is on the firearms. Would that, negate and change the meaning from a service to quote-unquote a force?
Not necessarily, because even police is a service.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a service. These are servicemen, really. For all intents and purposes, the NYS is a military training without the use of weapons. Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed. And, along the way, we've seen you've had attempts, of the Thursday addresses, in your office regarding what government is doing. How are you handling the high demand for accurate and authoritative information in this day of freely accessible information, especially by Kenyans?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, George, and thank you for asking me. So we have been having weekly pressers on Thursdays, and we've done over 60 press briefings since I took office on 4th of October last year. So I've been in this office for 10 months now. This is the 11th month, culminating on 4th of September.
Yes.
So by 4th of October, God willing, then we'll have done 1 year. And we've seen transformation, really. You cannot say that many Kenyans now don't know that there's a government spokesperson. We've had actually 47 key achievements. I've had to set up the office from scratch because it was at the Ministry of ICT. It was returned back to the President's where it originally was. And we have had to really do crisis communication, the Embakasi Inferno, the El Nino rains, the March, April, May, all those kind of things that we've been able to do within a very short period of time. We've also been able to ensure that now people are able to know what government is doing, increasingly so. I just did my last press last week, which was focusing on the youth employability in terms of those who are retiring from public service, the Ajira program, and we'll be continuing on until we get to people to understand what is it that this, President Ruto's administration has been able to achieve. But be that as it may, now we are taking a twin-track approach. There is content that you will see that is not necessarily branded from government, and Twitter trends and all of that is coming from my office. You may actually never know that comes from my office, because we need to also be very keen on a daily basis. News is only news for only 24 hours. There's information overload. People are trying to get, this and that. Everybody is now communicating because it is now liberalized. Everybody has an account. It's personalized. And you need to speak corporately for government. So we have agreed in principle that the primary sources of information are the ministries. So there's a spokesperson for a ministry is a minister. And for a state department is a PS. But then the work of the Office of the Government Spokesperson is to speak for the whole of government on cross-cutting issues.
Okay.
So you'll see my press statements will be having 3 or 4 issues, while a ministerial statement will be addressing 1 issue. The other thing that also is clear is that we have to keep on, ensuring that it's information warfare. You've got to provide accurate information when it is needed, because before it would take long before you process information. You'll be reading a newspaper of what happened yesterday. Today is real time. I don't think newspapers are really providing news, maybe in-depth analysis.
Mheshimiwa, at the same time, there seems to be a trust deficit, and I'm sure you've seen that, especially from these Kenyans that still consume whatever you're saying in terms of what government is doing. How are you handling that with your office? Because Kenyans seem really not to trust this government. You've had comments of tone deaf. You do not know what's happening on the ground. How are you, mitigating that situation? I
think believability.
Okay.
And people will start to see when people also beneficiaries of what government is doing. There's that believability, but also consistency, because we must tell the people what is happening. The trust has also been eroded because of misinformation and disinformation. Sometimes also people want, the same way they want news yesterday, they also want development yesterday. But things in government take a little bit slow of a process. It's a bureaucracy. And of course, eventually when they mature, then people are able to reap the dividends. I think that is the instant, coffee kind of mentality. With Wi-Fi and, communication has really, really made people to know a lot, which is very commendable. But at the same time, there is also that lack of patience. But my office, therefore, is trying to build that trust by ensuring that whatever we pronounce ourselves on is factual, is accurate, and is verified. And that I think, for me, has gone on very well so far. And I believe that we'll continue to do it. However, there has been this branding of government, deliberately as not speaking the truth by our competitors, by a cynical, public. Remember, President Ruto is only in power now. This is the 23rd month, because he was sworn in on 13th of September. And so, therefore, he still has time. We need to give him time for him to deliver. So we cannot just expect that all of the problems that we inherited from previous administrations that have not been resolved will be done in less than 2 years. It's practically impossible, because a government takes about 12 to 36 months to settle. And you can see also there have been various disruptions. There was drought. There was the issue of linear rains. There was the issue of the March, April, May rain. Now we have the issue of the protests. And there were other previous protests before. And we are still in a post-COVID era. It's just, I think, in 2023 that we were able to resume fully the academic calendar, if I get it right there. So I think that is something we need to look at. We have also inherited a country that is full of debt, really, but trying to get it out of doldrums. And now also people not wanting to really pay more in terms of taxation, yet also they still want services in an expanded government, and also with a very young and restless, population, where you have about the median age of Kenyan youth is actually 20 years old. So we are one of the youngest countries in the world.
Did the government then, Mheshimiwa, overpromise, so that then there is the issue of you do not know what project really to attack and to really handle to its extent? There is what you inherited. Also, Kenyans will tell you, whereas you inherited that government, they also inherited the repercussions of it all. So do you think then that there is quite some harmony in that opinion?
George, to him who much is given, much is expected.
Okay.
We did, when we came in the year 2022-2023, we did what we call a government roadshow. So what did we do? We audited the whole of government. We have a very robust report that clearly showed what are the ongoing projects, what are the stalled projects, and what are the projects under the better plan. So it's very clear to us, and that is why we came up with revenue-raising measures that if they had gone through, then they would have enabled us to bridge the gap instead of over-borrowing. But now we have to have a kind of strike a middle ground between borrowing and also ensuring that we do not also overburden the taxpayer.
Okay.
And then of course we borrow, but you have also to stimulate the economy, George, so that you have new avenues where people can actually make money and wealth, and therefore, of course, hopefully, you can also get more sources of government funding. So I think it's a tightrope. Was it anticipated? Yes, from my development economics background, and also having served in the National Assembly as Committee on Budget and Appropriations for 3 years, having been the Vice Chairman of Finance and Budget Committee of the Senate, I can tell you without a doubt that way back in 2014, I myself, Isaac Mwaura, clearly had seen that whoever was to be president in 2022 would have no country to run. So President William Ruto has done extremely well because people had written us off and they were actually thinking that we will not even survive 6 months. We are here almost 2 years later. So I would want to promise to Kenyans that there is every intention to fulfill all of the promises. Not maybe in the faster manner that we would have wanted before because of the exigencies of the moment and also the realities of running a public office and government, but we are very much intentional. That is why, for example, SHA will be rolled out 1st of October,
yes,
apart from the court cases in Waterview. That is why affordable housing is already now going on, and we'll be having by December even some of the people getting into these houses, if not earlier. We've also had the situation, for example, of the digital economy. We have all of the hubs there that have been launched everywhere, digital jobs, over 516,000 jobs. We have, of course, if you look at the issue of fertilizer, and the way the unga, we cannot doubt that unga is now less than 200 shillings, is 100 plus, and that was a promise. So food security is a big issue that we promised. So all of the 5 pillars that we've spoken about in terms of housing, in terms of health, in terms of digital economy, in terms of agriculture and food security, you name it, including even MSMEs. The Hustler Fund has now been rolled out, and over millions of Kenyans have been able to benefit. So there will be teething problems, but we believe as a government that we are on the right track to securing our manifesto and ensuring that then the country is stable. And I think that is not in doubt. We have a very hardworking president. We have now a new set of ministers, 50% new, and they've been deducted even today. We were having, for example, discussions with the Ministry of Health under the leadership of the Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix Koskei, on how to ensure that we deal with the issue of MPOX and also how to ensure that SHA works. Last week we had the similar issues to do with the new funding model. You had a president yesterday directly engaging in a town hall. And you'll be seeing more of us going mashinani. There was a time my office spent a whole week in Nakuru. We had town halls, we had engagement with farmers, so that people are able to understand what is it that government is doing for them and what is the value for their money.
We've seen, you've mentioned MPOX, Mheshimiwa, and there is the KUCO, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, has said, the government, the country is not ready to handle this. What is the status in terms of the preparedness should Kenya start reporting cases of MPOX?
Already some of the cases have been reported. I think that is not something that we should try to deny. But we have been handling them very well. Otherwise, it could be like COVID-19. I mean, it will be everywhere. So I do not agree with the statement that we were not ready to handle. Because if we were ready, how come then we have been able, at least to the extent possible, and not having this widespread? So I think the issue is that we need to be patriotic and optimistic, even when sometimes there is evidence to the contrary, that we can still rise again. You remember there are some people who are saying that in Africa, bodies will be dropping. I mean, there will be dead corpses all over because of COVID-19. Yet we were the most resilient continent in that regard. So I think we need to be optimistic.
Yes.
We need to be ebullient in terms of how we look at issues and ensure that we cooperate. I would want to expect that the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers would be coming forthright saying, in spite of what is obtaining, we are ready to help in this manner, not to say that we are unprepared. We, as a government, are very prepared to handle such a crisis, and we are not calling for others. But even then, even if that were to come, we, as a government, will be able to handle them.
Talking of, crisis, Mheshimiwa, there has been a conversation that the government seems to be listening only when people strike, when people take action. The Gen Z protests, the Kenya National Union of Teachers, airport workers, tea farmers, matatu owners, university and college students, is that, the modus operandi is the government seeming to listen when people take action in their hands?
I think I'm very happy, George, you've used the word seeming.
Yeah.
Because politics is about perception. And perception is a production of communication. I don't think so, personally. I don't think so. We have always been listening. The president listens, the government listens, and we take action. And there's a feedback mechanism that we even have. We even have an app that we are rolling out called Pasha, where you are able to get information and feedback, because communication is two-way. So we are listening, and I don't think it's fair to say that only when people are striking is when we take action. It may appear so because it could be a crisis, issue at a crisis, but we have done so many other things in boardrooms where people come and raise their issues amicably, and we're able to resolve them. Just like, for example, we didn't have to have the teachers strike. It was resolved. Now children have gone to school. And we must really commend bodies like Kesha, who came out very strongly to support the children will be safe in this environment.
Strikes or the threats of strikes?
Well, even if it was a threat, it was averted. That means we are listening. If we were not listening, it would have already been on course. Yeah.
When are we expecting to see communication or feedback regarding the hundreds of youths who have been arraigned in court, but you haven't seen officers or law enforcers during the Gen Z protests, during the protests that have also been here for a while? Why haven't we seen any police officer arraigned in court, yet we are seeing young people being arraigned in court?
I think, to be fair to you, I think there are some people who have preferred charges against certain police officers. Let the due process follow. I mean, let the rule of law follow. We cannot just say it's like a mob lynching, that let's also now go for police officers so that we can be even. I think that is not something that would be good. Then that's an eye for an eye. If there is a justiciable case and it is very well investigated, it will, of course, be brought to book. None other than His Excellency the President has pronounced himself on that one. I remember very well when he was giving a part of his cabinet, he actually committed himself when he was, mentioning that police also who have been found culpable should also, there should be some action. But you can't just say do it because others are already in court.
What about the abductions? What's the government position on that? Whereas there are still more reports, even last week, of families that are reporting in Kitengela that their kin are still being abducted, despite the government saying that, police officers, the law should, take its course. The CS saying during his vetting that, it is the prerogative, it is not the standing of the police service as a whole. There is...
I think we need to investigate the claims. And then they should also be channeled in a correct manner.
Okay.
I don't want us to sound alarmist. Neither do I want to say that there is no justification for such people. But at the same time, I don't see the reason as to why, at this point in time, there should be such things such as abductions by the police. For what reason? Okay. In any case, we cannot, confirm for sure whether these things actually did happen. And if they did, I think any action will be taken to remedy such a situation going forward. Yeah.
The compensation for families, the president said the government would compensate. How is that?
That is also ongoing. If you look at compensation, there are many forms of compensation. There would have been like the Embakasi Inferno, the Maimahiu. All of this have to be channeled within a framework. We remember even there are those people who are removed from the riparian areas. They have all since been compensated. The 10,000, I know quite a number of them who have called me directly to say, yes, we were able to receive this kind of money. So let us also see to it that will actually be done in due course, because we keep our promises as government.
Okay. Now is the government, you mentioned it, accounting for the deaths that were witnessed during
the correct figure of those who died during the protests can only be ascertained by the police. The media was actually speculating and trying to inflate the numbers, and I think that is not fair. It's unpatriotic. The official figures are from the police. That is the standard procedure in government. It is our stand as government, so that we rely on that. But we cannot just say, like, remember there was this euphoria that there is a mass massacre in Githurai. Even the police were attacked. In fact, I have an officer now who's joined my office. He was narrating to me today how they were even stoned by the people because they were incited. Yet in actual sense, there was no such kind of thing as massacre. I think people wanted some kind of mass hysteria, and so that people then, take to the streets, and the aim of those who are trying to do so are trying to overthrow this government, this constitutionally elected government. And I think it's not fair, for such that to have happened. We need to also protect the sovereignty of our nation. And even be very careful not to be interfered with externally, because we give room to propaganda when you want to inflate the number of people who've died. I remember when the time I was briefing the nation about the deaths of people in Maimahiu, There was even one government official who went to say that there were over 300 deaths. Yet in real sense, the numbers at that point were actually 46. So I think just to create news, I think it's important we be a bit careful, and so that we don't also behave like bloggers, or people who are just tweeting without any recourse. The government has a way of verifying any information that is raised to the public.
Do you feel the lack of patriotism is coming, there is a void? People do not feel like they own or love this government. Is that an opinion that you would share?
Yes, I think, George, because it's not so much for the love of the government.
Okay.
Because no government in the world is popular anyway. I can tell you, as the 5th government spokesman, defending government is not an easy thing, because people tend to excuse government even when there's no rain. They would say government has to do with it. I think, George, what is happening is that the love for the country. And that is why my office has started Uzalendo initiative. Patriotism. The patriot, Isaac Mwaura, is saying, mimi ni Mkenya mzalendo. Je, wewe? So we need to go back to that, so that people can be wajivunie kuwa wazalendo wa nchi hii yetu ya Kenya. But you find people would want even to denigrate the standing of our nation just because it fits a political narrative. Really, fellow Kenyans, there is no country in the world that has ever developed when people are trying to sabotage themselves. So I think that is it. The younger generation, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, we need to speak to them. Just recently, we were at Buruburu Girls High School. We had a very good time about that. We were at Menengai, school. We have been to several Githurai schools. I think 5 of them together. We'll continue with that, because we need to really amplify this Uzalendo, so that people can own it, and the country can resonate with that, one of the key national values, in my opinion, that if it is implemented together with the nationhood, Utaifa, we'll be able now to move many people in terms of their own philosophy, in terms of their own commitment to securing that which is of national public good, rather than seeing it as an opportunity for them also to enrich themselves, or actually just anarchy, destroying things for the sake of it, George Maringa. So I think that is a serious challenge we have as a nation. I think if we start this conversation at home, let people speak to their children, and let's also entrench this. We are already doing an ethics curriculum. My office, together with under the office of the head of public service, we are doing so that we are able to get senior public officials and cascading downwards, espousing this element of patriotism.
Absolutely, indeed. We are watching the Daily Report. You're still with the government spokesman, the Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura. We are taking a short break. On your screens are the SMS number, the 22047. The WhatsApp number is also on your screen. We'll also have an opportunity to be able to forward your questions, your comments or feedback regarding the program tonight. On X, I'm at George Maringa _. The spokesperson is at Mwaura Isaac 1. You can also
at spokesperson GOK.
At spokesperson GOK, or at TV47 News as well. Use the hashtag Daily Report, hashtag Power in Politics. We're back in a few minutes. Do stay with us.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching the Daily Report with me, George Maringa. My guest is the government spokesperson, government spokesman, that is the Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura. We are still in studio discussing tracking service delivery. Our SMS line 22047, start with your name, where you're watching us from, followed by a question, comment, or feedback regarding the program. Our WhatsApp number is also on the screen on X, formerly Twitter, at TV47 News, at George Maringa _, at Isaac Mwaura, at Mwaura Isaac 1, at government, at
spokesperson
GOK.
Yes.
Those are the handles where you can send in your feedback. Use the hashtag Daily Report, hashtag Power and Politics. Mheshimiwa, the president, a few months ago, recently rather admitted to a communications gap in his government and promising better service. How did that reflect on in your department, and how are you improving on this?
We've done a lot. We even are doing now a curriculum with the Kenya School of Government. We will be partnering, for example, with the Ministry of Health from tomorrow with regards to the rollout of the SHA, Social Health Act, Chief, all of that. I think we are in an era where over and above regulation of communication, but we are in information warfare. And I think the algorithms, the data, big data, the whatever, communication has really morphed in such a manner that we are still doing catch-up in terms of the tools that we require, for example, to aggregate social media, mass media production, issues of information and disinformation. All of these are critical. And of course, basically, also, when we came in, so the president was really right on this one. You found that government communication, we are only less than a year old as a government spokesperson's office.
Yes.
Government communication was not doing very well, to be honest. And those who are in the state departments and ministries will tell you. So we are trying to revamp that. We made a proposal to come up with a new scheme of service, which has since been approved. My office, which I had to start from scratch, a month, 10 months ago. Now we have an establishment. We have people who have been working. But I can assure you, we've done a lot. We've done like 75 online media campaigns so far. If I don't want to mention, but most of the hashtags that you've seen as on Twitter, for example, it is my office. You will not see government spokesman there, because we have to do that. Infographics, videos, and all of that. We have to get now news or information in a way that people are ready and willing to consume. Noting very well that the consultation span is only 8 seconds. So we are continuously specializing. But yes, I agree with you. I think the information architecture in general has been way ahead. Even you, the mainstream media, have also been trying to play catch up so that you don't have a Kodak moment. So I think that is one thing that we are grappling with globally. And it is borderless, you cannot say because now we are here on TV that somebody is not watching us from the United States or in Papua New Guinea, where I used to work, some times back.
Okay.
So it's a challenge of how that adaptability within a government bureaucracy that sometimes move a little bit slower.
Okay.
But we are getting there, and I think there's a lot of conversations to ensure that we adapt. And the institutions and infrastructure for government, for example, various agencies now really playing their specialized role in this whole, architecture on government, so that then we are able to deliver to people.
Okay.
One of the things that you must appreciate, though, is that government information is not something you just go and blurt out there. It has to be verified. You have to get it accurately. It has to be approved, because you are not just giving your own personal opinion. And that in itself sometimes is a bit, it slows things down, because then it means people may not get it, as it were. But my office has been very open to journalists through our, that's the pressers, through our county tours, through our one-on-one engagement in terms of questions. If you have any clarification, please reach out to us. If you want to know what government is doing, and all those kind of things. And I think we have actually raised the profile of government communication within a very short time, and we can only do better going forward. Yes.
The issue of young people, they of course form the highest population in this country, and there were so many programs that were geared towards that in the promises by Kenya Kwanza government. For instance, a question here came in from Arnold. He says, why are they playing games with JSS teachers' confirmation?
No, I don't think that's the case. There was an issue about funding. It has since been corrected, and the Parliamentary Committee on Budget has confirmed that there is money allocated in the budget. It is the responsibility of the new minister, CS Badi, to ensure that there is exchequer, and that they will be possibly in the new year. We will be able to have them confirmed on permanent and pensionable basis. I got a message from some gentleman, I forget his name.
Yes.
And he was telling me he's a JSS intern, and after deduction, he's going home with only 17,000. We had to start from somewhere, because remember, we were starting junior secondary school under CBC. So it had to be that the interns are the ones who would have bridged the gap rather than staying at home. And I can assure you without a doubt, we'll be able to employ the 46,000 and hire an additional 20,000 so that we can be able to do so. But remember, for the first time in history, this is the government that has employed at a go 56,000 teachers. In less than 1 year. That time. So I think that also is a positivity of it, and the interns also should be appreciative that at least they have a job. They have a job that they are keeping, and that the government has already allocated billions of shillings to ensure that they actually onboarded under the Teacher Service Commission.
What opportunities exist for the youth, Mheshimiwa, in this current regime, and what is the government specifically doing to address the high levels of unemployment? Where can young people turn to?
Oh, a lot. For example, those right now we are just going to take another 8,000 interns in the public service.
Okay.
In the PSIP, Public Service Internship Program. That is an opportunity. We are employing nurses, for example, in our referral hospitals like Kenyatta University. We have employed quite a number of people in the army. As we speak, by the way, in the next 5 years, there will be a retirement of about 46,000 people from the public service. All of these positions are going to go to the young people. You get the point? At the same time, you look at also innovations in terms of new frontiers of employment, like the Affordable Housing Program,
yes,
which is employing quite a number of people. If you look at, for example, the issue of the fact that the economy, looking at the big companies we have here, they are making good money. So that means the economy is actually rebounding. Look at Kenya Airways, for example, making profit for the first time of 513 million. So that tells you those are the opportunities for you look at the digital hubs. I was at RVIST, Rift Valley Institute of Science and Technology. I found some 200 youth there who have made over 3 million within a very short time. Leash AI in Nakuru as well. You see the one here in Ruiru that the president has spoken about many times. So there are opportunities in digital jobs, for example. There are opportunities if you look at also, if we look at even issues of backward and forward value chain addition in the field of agriculture. So so we need not to lose hope. We also have this very robust, program for labor export. We just had a conversation with agents last week with CS Mutua on Wednesday last week. And it was very, very productive. I think over 250 agencies were there.
Yeah.
We have markets in Saudi Arabia, in Germany, and we continue, signing bilateral agreements, for our nurses, for skilled workers, not just, housemaids and all of that. And I've seen personally how such kind of opportunities have transformed the lives of people who would heretofore would not have been able to live the kind of life that they have lived. So I think we need to be open. We need also to be self-seeking in terms of those opportunities. People are being employed when others are grappling and saying there are no jobs. You have just to be more consistent, persistent. And of course, there's also the entrepreneurial spirit that we're encouraging people to also create their own jobs so they can also be employers rather than employees.
At the same time, Mheshimiwa, there is the issue of the taxes that exist. It has been quite difficult in terms of even getting, government loans to be able to, or rather a loan to be able to come up with a business. Do you think it is as easy as it sounds?
I think the issue of taxation is not necessarily a question of loan availability. Those are two issues, George. The issue of crowding out local investors is something that we need to address as a government. I have made a proposal before, but that's my own proposal.
Yes.
That the domestic borrowing should also be a percentage of the GDP. That would really be good so that then you cap it, but then you externalize the debt. But the problem with externalizing the debt is that then you also have to pay in foreign currency, which sometimes, because of the market volatility, then you end up paying more than actually what you would have paid locally. Okay. So it's a tough balancing act, and that is why the government wanted to have more revenue-raising measures to avoid borrowing, because then if you need to go back to where we were before, where banks were actually hawking loans. And then what do you mean when you hawk loans? It means that then anybody with a business idea will get affordable credit and thereby then commercialize this idea into a profit venture. So I think that is where we need to look at.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that is the issue of taxation, but also we are trying to make the startup environment to be more friendly. So we have a startup legislation that is being processed very well, and that means that we reduce these bureaucracies. For example, now there's a proposal to ensure that if you accumulate penalties, they can actually be waived. George, so that then you don't end up, having accumulated debts or all those kind of things. Okay. There's even a moratorium Kerry has been announcing, so that then people come out and then we are able to map out those who are able to pay more. So these are some of the issues that we are trying to do in terms of even business environment. Remember also, we have been ranked consecutively for 2 years as a country that with the highest, money for foreign direct investment in the whole of Africa. In the year 2023, we were able to receive over $850 million, way ahead of Nigeria and South Africa and Ghana and Egypt for that reason. So we really are a very, very fertile ground for investment. I was just speaking last week with an investor called Nectar. They are trying to produce 300 ambulances from here. There are others who want to invest in steel. There are others who want to invest in cement. So let us be positive. We have SEZs, special economic zones. We have the various economic zones across the counties that we've actually been able to launch. Like I remember being in Homa Bay at the Riwa. It's already being constructed there. There's a perimeter wall by the last time I checked. And there are quite a number of other places where we are trying to ensure that we have aggregation centers that will create jobs for Kenyans. So those are also startup opportunities for our businesses. So I think that's it. The issue of liquidity and circulation, obviously, that is one of the things that we need to look up to as a government, and we are ready and willing to engage with investors, with stakeholders, to see to it that then we give them the best premium in terms of ensuring that they do not just close shop and that they get value for their money.
Is the passport issuance process back on track?
Yes, it is. Actually, there are 110,000 that people have been told to collect. Okay. At some point, the backlog was over 800,000, my friend. That was one of the issues that I kept on addressing in my weekly presses. So I think that has been resolved to a large extent. There were some 2 machines that were to be procured. They have now been able to help in clearing the backlog.
And they have not broken down again?
No, not at all. Well, there was an issue whereby we resolved by ensuring that some of the monies that is generated by passports is retained by the State Department, and that has really isn't this whole issue backlog. PS Ambassador Bitok has done a very commendable job under the leadership of CS Kindiki, and we'll continue to improve our services. Remember, even the CS had to go there in person, and it has really made a difference. So if you have not collected your passport and it is lying idle at the State Department for Immigration, please, it's good you do so, so that then we are able to have that cleared, and also those who are applying, we are trying to ensure that we increase the speed at which then the turnaround time, so that you can get a passport in the shortest time possible. And also we are decentralizing. You don't need to come to Nairobi. There are also stations in Nakuru, in Kisii, in Embu, and whatever you, so that then you are able to get it where you're close, and even using the Huduma centers across the country. Yeah.
This government, Mheshimiwa, has been accused, like governments before, of failing in civic education. For instance, funding for IEBC, public participation, especially on the matter of civic education. How is your office or this government trying to address that, so that then it is not a perennial issue year in, year out?
Yeah, I think civic education is something that we can do. We used to have a program called K-NICE before. I myself, when I started out working, my first job was a program officer in a civic education program called Uraia. So I think we can do more, but also we need partnership with the media. The media plays a very critical role in informing the public, and it's believable of what is happening. So I think that is something that we can work together to improve on. But be that as it may, I think the challenge sometimes now is the consumption of information is very democratic. So sometimes people may not necessarily choose to consume certain kind of information because of the way it is packaged. So we also need to be more innovative in the way in which we approach our publics, and ensure and know that they are also very learned, and they can also source for it for themselves. And they're also not limited to Kenya alone. They can. It's global now. If you go to Google, you can Google anything. I mean, like, you can be anywhere in the world at any given point in time. So I think things have really changed. And I think sometimes we are using old maps to navigate this new environment. That I can tell you without a doubt. It's like using the map of Mombasa to navigate Nairobi. So we are still stuck in the old mindset, of how things are done. But I believe that we shall get it right, because necessity is the mother of invention. And I think we ourselves in government are very committed to informing the public, because you cannot hide. You cannot hide this information. It is there, it's out there. Even before you know it, it's everywhere. So I think civic education is critical, and that's why we're developing the curriculum, for example, on some of the issues like integrity, but also at the same time, the general provision of information around what government is doing.
At the height of the protests, you said that there were external forces that were behind this. Is that still your view? Are these external forces still, quote-unquote, interfering with issues to do with Kenya?
You saw the president himself also pronouncing himself on the same issue.
Yes.
Please, let's leave it at that, because we have our own information. It has been corroborated and verified. Let us leave it at that.
Let us leave it at that. So, and how is the, view, public image of Kenya to the outside countries, to other countries? How do you think we are perceived as a country?
We were doing very well before the protests.
Okay.
We will rebound.
We'll rebound.
Tomorrow, we are launching the bid of Raila Odinga to be the AUC chair at State House. And so the President of the Republic of Kenya is a champion for reform at the AU. He took over from Kagame. You saw people coming here in droves. We'll have several presidents tomorrow, for example. So I think that is something that we cannot, put it down. That we have a very good international image. There are our political detractors and detractors who do not wish Kenya well, both internally and externally, may have had their own, issues. But I'm very glad to say that we have been able to weather the storm, and now Kenya is going to be stronger. Kenya is going to be better. Kenya will rise again. Kenya is going to provide leadership for the whole of African continent in matters green economy, in matters reform of international financial architecture, in matters of climate justice, in matters of de-dollarization and such other programs that the president has pronounced himself on. And we are going to move forward in ensuring that we have a common and unified African voice under the leadership of the president, and also now, if possible, that Raila Odinga become the AUC chairman. So we are not going to let our flag down. there are many setbacks. Even America, they had such situations in their last general election with claims of insurrection. But they are still, the one leading the world as a superpower. So Kenya is a giant in African, matters. In sub-Saharan Africa, we are actually number 3 largest economy after, Nigeria and South Africa. We will continue to play that role. We are a very critical gateway to Africa. We have UN, 2 UN headquarters for UNEP, Environment Program and UN Habitat. There are many initiatives that are here. I was working with them. With my team in the office, and we now had to partner with Microsoft. There are some of the solutions that are raking in billions from the Microsoft office here in Kenya, a very good example of what can be done. So I think we should remain very hopeful that this country can only be great and greater, and will be revived, and so really that is happening, and we must believe that we can make it. That idea of thinking that because we've gotten negative publicity, just because of the protests, that then we are done and dusted, is not true. We will rise, and we are rising from the ashes, and I want to believe that all of us are ready and willing to play their part to realize a common future that is beneficial to all of us all.
Many have feared that there is lack of synergy within GOK communications, duplication of messages, some dilution of messages. Your thoughts about that?
I don't agree with that view, because we all work for the whole of government. And the president is both the head of state and the head of government. We have already told you how we are strengthening communication at the ministerial level. Just today, we had a meeting with how to do that at the Ministry of Health. Last week, we had the Ministry of Education. And you'll be seeing more and more people communicating with ministers coming out to address press conferences, PSAs as well, because we must win this war. It's an information warfare. So I believe that this government, more than ever before, is more transparent as per Article 35, Access to Information, and the Access to Information Act, to actually turn things around. That I can assure you without a doubt. Yes.
And so the university students should expect to report to school without any hitches?
That was addressed yesterday.
Yes.
I think you followed that, Judge.
Yes, we did follow.
And so therefore that is already done. We will be able to deal with the issues that they raised that are of concern. But largely, from the statistics that I have, the people who have made appeals are only 12,000.
That's still a high number.
No. Comparatively, with the propaganda that was being spread around, out of over 130,000 who have applied, 13,000, maybe about 10%. We cannot ignore it. But it's not the crisis of imagining that so many people are missing out. So we need to be very, very clear about that. And we are a listening and learning, government. This new funding model is only being implemented for the second time. There are also issues to do with reducing the cost of the programs, so that then we don't just peg programs to be extremely expensive to the detriment of those who are supposed to be joining. So we are looking at all of that. And I think that one I don't even want us to second guess, because the president has pronounced himself on it.
The police officers in Haiti, have you received any feedback on how they are progressing?
That we are providing leadership. It is a south to south kind of arrangement. It has worked with us Kenyans in providing leadership. That is very commendable, because we are a so-called African country that is leading even other countries in a multinational, multi-agency approach. And so therefore, I think that is a teething problem. Already monies have been signed off for dispatch. So I think it will be resolved. If at all there is any delay in whatever nature, it shall be done. Yes.
Is your job difficult? Are you finding it difficult to defend government?
I mean, George, you're asking the obvious, but it's fish into water. By the way, for your information,
yes,
maybe people don't know this, but I've had a long experience in comms, in communication. I have been a writer for the longest. I've written for the People Daily. I've written for the Star, I think, for over 5 years. I have done a radio show for over 10 years, consistently from 2013 to 2023. At some point, I was actually a radio presenter with Bahasha FM, the ones called Bahasha FM.
Yes.
Sometimes back, I have been an editor of various magazines and publications, both here in Kenya and also internationally, at the international level. I mean, really, I've done advocacy from an NGO point of view, international development. I've been actually able to start a communications department, over state agents. In fact, my first job in government, proper job, was a principal public relations communications officer. And also, prior to that, I served in a board where I was in charge of public relations and advocacy. And I've worked also internationally in similar capacities. So in terms of communication, I can tell you without a doubt, since this job that I was given, my friend, we have actually transformed. You can see a lot of activity of government comes on. It has come from my office, that I believe, without a doubt. Yeah, and you'll be seeing more of it. Yeah. I have a very competent team. The government spokesperson office was only supposed to have about 7 staff. But now we've been able to raise the bar. I think we are about over 50 now. And within less than 1 year, I have a good team of Gen Zs who know how to, do what they need to do and come up with good content, because we win either through regulation or content, as I said. Yeah, so I love my job.
You love your job?
Of course, yes.
And how different has it been, would you gauge, from your predecessors, and how, they have performed in that part?
I think that's not a fair question.
Okay.
But I believe for sure that we've done well so far. I mean, we are only less than a year old.
All right.
So you cannot really start judging and say predecessors. We are yet to, mark our time fully. But we have made that progress.
Yeah, so I'd like you to speak to Kenyans. You've spoken about patriotism, and you can just speak to Kenyans in just a minute or so as we wind up. On this, you speak about the deficit of patriotism. On the other side, there is the deficit of trust. Bridge the gap as well.
Allow me to speak in Kiswahili.
Please.
Wakenya wenzangu, ningependa kuwarai kwamba tuwe watu ambao ni wazalendo. Watu ambao wana utaifa, watu ambao wanaiamini nchi. Kwa sababu tukifanya vile, hatutakuwa na mambo tu ya kukosoa dola ama kuifisidi nchi. Tutakuwa watu ambao wanazingatia kanuni na sheria zetu, na watu ambao pia wanawasaidia Wakenya wenzao, kwa sababu wao wana utu na ni watu kama wale wengine. Matukio ya hivi karibuni yameonyesha dhahiri shairi kwamba sisi tumekuwa na upungufu wa ile hadhi na kujivunia kama Wakenya yale mambo ambayo tunafikiri yanatuunganisha. Ikawa kwamba watu wengi wanasifia uharibifu wa mali na kuweza kukosea heshima hata mamlaka na asasi zetu za kiumma. Ningependa kusema kwa ujumla kwamba lazima tuzingatie kwamba hakuna nchi yoyote ambayo imewahi kuendelea ama kusonga mbele pasi na uzalendo na utaifa. Kwamba Mungu aliona ni vyema kutuweka pamoja, tuishi kwa pamoja, jamii zote zaidi ya 47 za nchi hii yetu hii. Kwa hiyo ningependa kuwarai mimi kama msemaji mkuu wa serikali kwamba tuwe watu ambao wanajivunia nchi hii yetu, watu ambao ni wapenzi wa amani, watu ambao wana utangamano na umoja, kwa sababu Kenya ni nchi ambayo imejaa rutuba, ni nchi ambayo ina rasilimali nyingi, ni nchi ambayo ina nafasi mwafaka kabisa, mwafaka mkubwa ya kuweza kujizatiti na kujidhihirisha kama nchi mojawapo ambayo itaweza kufika upeo wa juu katika bara letu la Afrika na ulimwengu. Kenya itasimama, Kenya itainuka, Kenya itanawiri kwa umoja na uzalendo. Inaanza na wewe mwenyewe. Ikifika katika manyumbani kwetu, tukitokea katika mashule kwetu, tuweze kuwa na ule upendo. Tusirudi nyuma na tusiweze kubaki tukiwa tunauliza, je, serikali itanifanyia nini? Ndivyo, serikali ipo. Na ni wachache tu ambao wanaweza kuwa na nafasi kama mimi, kwa mfano, kufanyia kazi mle. Lakini hatua tunazozichukua pia hutokana na mwito na uungwaji mkono ambao unatoka kwenye umma, kwa sababu kila serikali huwa ni tunda, kama tunaweza kusema hivyo, la chaguzi ambazo tunazozifanya kwa wale ambao tunafikiri kwamba wana mawaidha ama dhana ama ruwaza ambazo ni mbadala kwa kusonga mbele kwa nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo tuwe watu ambao ni wazalendo, ni watu ambao wapenda amani, ili Kenya iweze kunawiri na kushamiri, kwa sababu ni nchi ambayo sisi sote tumeirithi, na lazima tuhakikishe kwamba hata vizazi vijavyo vinaweza kufaidi kutokana na maamuzi yetu na ujenzi ambao tumeufanya, kwa sababu tunawajali na pia kwa sababu tunajua kwamba hatuna nchi nyingine isipokuwa Kenya hii yetu. Asante sana.
Asante. Mheshimiwa, as we close up, from where you sit, is the pressure increasing or decreasing?
Which pressure?
Of your office.
No, but I mean,
is the pressure increasing?
That's a very interesting question.
Uh-huh.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
our office is very adaptable to change.
Okay.
And we've done very well.
All right.
Yes.
Asante sana. We've been speaking to Honorable Dr. Isaac Mwaura, the government spokesman right here on TV47. As always, stay safe and be kind to one another. I'm George Maringa. See you tomorrow.